Another method for both protection and automation is the use of names and ranges. It'll protect our formulas because they're a little bit easier to read. And they will also automate formulas because of the fact that we don't have to worry about very extensive expressions within them. When I talk in terms of a named range, I'm talking of the cell address. If I click on cell A2, you'll notice up in the corner that there is a name box. A2 is the name of this cell. However, I can name this cell whatever I want to. I'm going on the name box, I'm highlighting the cell name A2, and I'm going to just name it total. I'll hit enter, and that accepts my change. Now I'm simply going to type a number in that cell. Here's the advantage. In a normal formula, I would start with an equal. You could start with a plus also. Select my cell. Notice how the name of that cell comes up as total now. The idea is that rather than having to look at a formula that says A2, which can be somewhat cumbersome to read, I can actually just rename that as anything I want to. When I now type in total and I hit enter, the value from A2 appears. How does this become useful? Well, let's look at an example right within the table that you see on the screen. You will notice that I'm calculating the percentage of total. In order to do so, what I need to do is first go down to the end of total and turn on my AutoSum. The AutoSum, indicated by the icon, tells me that I now have a total. To calculate the percentage of this total, I would simply take my formula and I will divide cell H8, the 978, by the total, or 6828. The enter key, of course, is going to plug in that total. But look what happened to each one of the individual cells. They all gave me a divide by 0. That's because Excel, by definition, uses what is called relative reference. When using this relative reference, it automatically shifted H15 to the next cell down. If you look at H15 though, there's nothing here. Now notice the indicator. The indicator is trying to help me with this particular mistake. So what's the solution? Normally, in our originating cell, we would make the total an absolute value. To do so, I'm going up to the formula bar and I'm going to press F4 on my keyboard. That automatically puts a $sign in front of the H and in front of the 14. Now if you'd like, you can type those $signs in. However, it's much easier to use function 4, F4 on your keyboard. At this point, I will now go to the autofill. I'll fill down my cells and you'll notice that the calculation works. Off to the side, the little smart tag, it's just asking me if I'd like to copy, if I'd like to change my format, or just fill as is. The smart tag will disappear upon my next entry. Now that was pretty cumbersome to get that total working that way. Here's where our named range comes in. I'm going back to the 6828. Notice in the name box it's H14. Once again, I'll highlight it. This time, I'm going to go ahead and call this particular cell subtotal. And again, I'm going to hit enter. Going back to my formula, instead of using the absolute value of cell H14, I'm going to fill it in with the word subtotal. You will now notice that it automatically created subtotal in each of the equations. Now a note of interest. You notice how 2007 automatically calculated my formulas going down. This is now a built-in feature of 2007 when using the table function. Those of us in 2003, we would still need to go to the autofill and simply drag it down. The idea here is that rather than having to use the absolute value of the cell, I can use the word subtotal. We'll continue with more examples of how this named range can help us in our upcoming movie.